Soon after, Deadpool learns that his universe will be destroyed in 72 hours. All the existing versions of the Deadpool gang up and travel through the multiverse to eliminate Prime Deadpool, and they are all thirsty for his blood. Within a minute, fights ensue. When matter and antimatter merge, the machine detonates, incinerating Cassandra along with the Doomsday device, trapping Deadpool and Wolverine as well. So, did Deadpool and Wolverine die too? But we will discuss it in the video. The movie begins in a snow-covered forest with Deadpool frantically digging. He has only 72 hours to save his universe. To confront this existential threat, Deadpool is on a mission to find Wolverine. Wolverine is the only one who can stop this catastrophe. Deadpool sets out to find Wolverine, hoping that Logan might still be alive due to his healing powers. However, when Deadpool digs him up, he discovers only Wolverine's remains. Angrily, he beats them with a shovel and curses because Logan is his last hope. Later, Deadpool calms down and talks to Logan's skeleton. That's when the TVA agent arrives to arrest Deadpool for tampering with the timeline. Deadpool grabs Wolverine's adamantium bones and uses them to fight. In an epic fighting scene, we see Deadpool's craziness. He beats all the agents while dancing. More agents come through portals, but Deadpool decides to keep fighting. To defeat the rest of the agents, he ties Wolverine's claws to his wrists and uses them as weapons. Next, in a flashback, we see Wade, also known as Deadpool, attempting to join the Avengers after his life as Deadpool becomes chaotic. He hopes to turn his life around to win back his girlfriend Vanessa, as he fears losing her. Wade goes for an interview at Tony Stark's headquarters, where he meets Happy, Tony Stark's former driver and current Avengers employee. Happy tells Wade that he is unsuitable for the Avengers team because his reasons for wanting to join are selfish. 6 months after his rejection, Wade starts working at a New York car dealership with Peter, one of the few who knows he is Deadpool. When they return home in the evening, Wade is surprised to find a birthday party waiting for him. He enjoys the celebration with friends, including his ex, Vanessa, whom he still loves and hasn't moved on. Being surrounded by loved ones is a rare joy for him. After blowing out the candles and making a wish, Wade hears a knock at the door. He goes to the door and encounters TVA agents. Before he can ask any questions, one of the agents rips off his wig, while the other drags him into a portal, kidnapping him to the TVA headquarters. There, Deadpool meets the movie's villain, Paradox. Paradox explains that all the TVA employees are responsible for protecting the sacred timeline. Paradox reveals that his bosses have chosen Wade for a great purpose. If he works for them, he can finally join the Avengers. He shows him a glimpse of his future, sitting next to Thor and crying. Upon seeing this, the anti-hero immediately accepts the deal and rushes to Taylor's room to get a new uniform before starting the mission. Afterward, Wade asks Paradox to send him back home to share the news with his friends. At this moment, he discovers the truth by making the deal with the TVA. Deadpool can never return home because his universe will be reset in 72 hours, and all the people he loves will cease to exist. Paradox explains that when a universe loses its anchor, it starts to disintegrate. In Wade's universe, the anchor was Wolverine, who sacrificed himself to save a group of mutant children, including his daughter, Laura. And this is where the real twist comes in. Paradox reveals his real motive. Instead of waiting for the universe's natural death, which would occur in a few thousand years, Paradox decided to build a machine to destroy it all at once. Paradox offers Deadpool two options: join the sacred timeline and fulfill his dream of being part of the Avengers, or be destroyed along with his friends. However, Deadpool chooses a third option. After smashing Paradox on the nose, he steals the temp pad to open a portal back home, believing Wolverine might still be alive. The story continues from where it left off with a battle, where Deadpool uses the adamantium bones to fight the TVA agents in the snow-covered forest. Since Wolverine is now nothing more than a pile of bones in this world, Deadpool will have to travel quite a bit in time. After defeating all the TVA agents sent to capture him, Deadpool sets off on a journey to find another version of Logan, to convince him to help save his friends. While traveling through multiple universes, Deadpool comes across several versions of Wolverine and attempts to persuade one of them to join him. Despite his efforts, all the Logans he encounters try to eliminate him, including one who looks remarkably similar to Henry Cavill, and who attacks him with adamantium claws. Finally, Deadpool encounters an alcoholic version of Wolverine who also refuses to help. Deadpool is running out of time and options, so he takes Wolverine to the TVA headquarters to save his world and friends. Without much thought, he presents the drunk version of Wolverine to the Paradox and tries to convince him to replace the old Wolverine with a new one. However, Paradox refuses to make the substitution. Wade insists on speaking to whoever is in charge, and that's when the true deception of Paradox is exposed. In reality, Paradox intends to carry out the operation without his boss's consent, as he is orchestrating this destructive scheme to increase his influence. Sensing danger and to avoid losing his position, Paradox decides to send Deadpool to the Void and then do the same with Wolverine before he causes any trouble. The Void is a special restricted zone like a prison where TVA sends people who don't play nice with the rest of the multiverse. If you've watched the Loki series, you may remember the Void where this universe's end meets the end of everything. Guarded by Alioth, a creature created by Kang the Conqueror. Despite the many theories surrounding the series, let's set those aside and focus on the main storyline. When Deadpool encounters Wolverine, Logan vents all his fury as he is taken from his universe against his will and is now trapped in an unknown place. Despite everything, Wade doesn't want to fight, but Wolverine is still furious and wants to fight. Wade retaliates and unloads his pistol cartridges into Wolverine's ribs. The fight continues as Wolverine uses his claws to destroy Deadpool's weapons, and then uses his swords to block the blows during the duel. Wolverine is hit several times and Deadpool's swords remain stuck in his body. Now that his rival is more vulnerable, Logan prepares to rip off Deadpool's head. However, Deadpool manages to convince him to join him. Even without knowing Wolverine's past, Wade imagines that Wolverine must have suffered a great loss to be so bitter. He promises that if the mutant helps him return to the TVA headquarters, he will convince Paradox to fix his universe. The conversation is interrupted by Captain America, who informs them that the real enemies are approaching. Seeing one of his favorite superheroes right in front of him, Deadpool gets emotional. However, when Chris Evans starts catching fire, Deadpool realizes it is Johnny Storm from the Fantastic Four. As the Human Torch uses his powers to eliminate the enemies, Pyro manages to block the attack and absorb all the fire. After losing his powers, Johnny falls to the ground, and Sabretooth appears to attack him. Just as the duel is about to begin, Deadpool removes the sword stuck in Wolverine's body, believing it will be an epic battle. However, as soon as the fight starts, Logan makes the first attack and rips off his opponent's head. Pyro realizes he won't be able to capture the two, so he decides to use a giant magnet to imprison Wolverine. Deadpool ends up getting stuck as well. Both are then tied up inside a cell with Johnny and taken to Cassandra Nova's hideout, who is the twin sister of Professor Charles Xavier. Upon meeting Cassandra, Deadpool recounts all the terrible things Johnny said about her during the trip. Most of it was fabricated and made up by Wade, but believing those lies, Cassandra decides to eliminate Johnny. She effortlessly strips Johnny of his skin with a mere flick of her finger, and explains that she was sent to that place before she learned to walk, and her brother never looked for her. Hearing Cassandra speak ill of his deceased friend, Wolverine tries to attack her, but ends up having his body sunk into the ground. Cassandra then invades Wade's mind to investigate his greatest vulnerabilities and discovers that he was recently rejected by the person he loved most. When Cassandra exits his mind, Deadpool distracts her so Wolverine can stab her with his claws. To their surprise, Cassandra easily escapes the attack and summons Alioth to devour them. Seeing the purple cloud approaching, Wolverine and Deadpool hitch a ride on a flying jet and manage to escape. Their next mission is to find a way to return to the TVA and capture Paradox to force him to fix both universes. Before starting the plan, the duo decides to take a break. They find an abandoned diner in the middle of the desert. While eating, Deadpool comments that Logan is adored by many fans in his world. Upon hearing this, Wolverine reveals that in his universe, he is hated by everyone because he made an unforgivable mistake. After a brief rest, the two allies decide to continue their journey to the border, as Johnny said that it was the only way out of that world before dying. During their walk, Wolverine asks Deadpool about what happened to his other version. Deadpool reveals that Logan died while trying to save a girl who, like him, was created in a laboratory. The young woman, named Laura and known by the codename X-23, was considered a daughter by Wolverine. He sacrificed himself so she could be free. While walking through the desert, Deadpool sees a dog running toward him and is charmed by the animal. Without thinking twice, Wade decides to adopt the dog. However, he soon discovers that the dog, Dogpool, already has an owner. Just then, Nicepool appears to retrieve his dog. When Wolverine asks which way the border is, Nicepool, trying to help the strangers get back home, decides to lend his car so they can get there faster. Before leaving, Wade reluctantly returns the Dogpool to its rightful owner and gets into the car to continue the journey. During the journey, Deadpool asks Wolverine what he would change if the TVA agents could alter the past. Upon hearing this, Logan realizes he has been deceived, as his partner misled him to help under false promises. Unsure if his universe can be changed, the mutant abruptly breaks the vehicle and attacks Deadpool. Furious for being tricked since being removed from his world against his will, Wolverine believed he could fix a great mistake from the past and bring his friends back, now knowing it is all an illusion. He vents his frustration on Wade as Deadpool and Wolverine fight inside the car. While Deadpool attempts to slice him with his sword, Logan's claws repeatedly pierce him. Their battle destroys the vehicle and splatters blood everywhere. Since both can heal instantly, the fight continues through the night. In the morning, they are found unconscious by another variant sent to that world. A few minutes after the rescue, Deadpool wakes up and sees Logan drinking a bottle of whiskey. Suddenly, Wade hears a noise and prepares to attack, but is surprised by the arrival of Elektra, who easily knocks him down. Then Blade the Vampire Hunter and Gambit appear, along with Laura. Laura reveals that she found them in the desert and decided to take them to the hideout because she recognized Wolverine. Before being captured by the TVA, Laura underwent a similar experiment to Logan, having several liters of adamantium injected into her body. Thanks to Wolverine, X-23 survived, and even though she knows he is not the same Logan who saved her, she decides to repay the favor. Upon meeting the team, Deadpool asks how they got there, and Elektra reveals that all their universes were reset. Knowing that these mutants would never accept the destruction of their world without a fight, the TVA decided to send them to the Void to prevent them from causing problems. After hearing this story, Wade decides to join the team and discovers that they are friends of Johnny. At that moment, Wolverine reveals that, because of Deadpool, the Human Torch was eliminated by Cassandra. However, Wade manages to turn the situation around and convinces the mutants to help him defeat Cassandra. The only way to stop the enemy is by blocking her powers with Magneto's helmet, but Cassandra destroys it after eliminating the mutant. While recounting the sad story of losing their most experienced team member, Elektra remembers that Juggernaut's helmet can block Cassandra's powers. The only problem is that Juggernaut works for her. However, Deadpool devises a plan to steal the helmet and convinces everyone to join him, except Wolverine. That night, while drinking whiskey by a campfire, Logan receives a visit from Laura. The young woman tells him that he reminds her a lot of her father, despite all his flaws, and says that her father was always there when she needed him. Hearing this, Logan admits that he wasn't there to help the X-Men when they needed him the most. Instead of staying at the mansion with his family, Wolverine decided to follow his path. One day, humans invaded the house and eliminated all the mutants. Hours later, Logan came back drunk from a bar and found the bodies of his friends. Since then, he has never been able to forgive himself for not being there to protect them. After hearing this sad story, Laura states that she will accompany them to Cassandra's hideout in the morning and asks Wolverine to support them in this fight. At dawn, the team gets in the car and drives to Cassandra's hideout. As they approach, Blade uses a bazooka to destroy the gates, and the team invades the enemy base. Everyone thought Wolverine wouldn't support them in the battle, but he emerges from the trunk, boosting his allies' confidence. They give their best so that Deadpool and Wolverine have a chance to get close to Cassandra. Upon seeing them, Cassandra claims to be surprised they returned and demonstrates her superiority by easily immobilizing them without touching them. She then invades Logan's mind and discovers the pain he carries for disappointing all the people he loves. After finding the bodies of his friends piled up at the mansion, Wolverine becomes a bitter person and starts eliminating humans in the hope of reducing his pain. Meanwhile, Laura faces Juggernaut in a duel and, after defeating him, manages to steal his helmet. She climbs the tower to deliver the artifact to Wolverine, but is pulled back down. At the very end, she manages to throw her backpack into the room. Deadpool grabs the helmet and manages to trap Cassandra, who is vulnerable while invading Logan's mind. While the duo decides what to do with her, Pyro appears and starts shooting at his boss. At this moment, he is struck by Wolverine, who starts arguing with Deadpool about Cassandra's fate. If the helmet is not removed, she will die soon. So Logan decides to remove it to save her, even though he knows that the woman might be eliminated shortly after. Despite wanting to kill her, Wolverine knows that this is not what Xavier would want him to do. He decides to spare Cassandra's life. As a thank you, Cassandra helps them return home by using a ring she seizes from one of the versions of Doctor Strange to open a portal back to Earth 185, where Wade lives. At that moment, a cloud approaches, and Cassandra warns that the duo has only 4 seconds to leave the void before being devoured by it. Upon hearing this, Deadpool and Wolverine run and cross the portal, while their friends continue the battle against the mutants. Cassandra begins interrogating Pyro to understand why he attempted to kill her. She discovers that he is an infiltrated agent working for Paradox, ordered to eliminate her. Learning that Deadpool and Wolverine have returned to Washington, Paradox decides to go after them but is surprised by Cassandra's arrival. The mutant invades her enemy's mind and discovers that he is building a machine to annihilate the universe. Suddenly, She violently expels Deadpool and Wolverine from the mind to continue exploring Paradox's thoughts. She then decides to use this machine to destroy all universes, leaving only the Void, the single world that she rules. Meanwhile, Commander B-15 receives news of an unauthorized time being activated on Earth 105. After capturing Paradox to take her to the machine, Cassandra leaves the portal open. Deadpool sees Dogpool coming out of it and picking him up. Wade sees a Nicepool running towards him. Shortly after, an enormous army of Deadpools from all existing versions crosses the portal. Confronted by this gang of mercenaries, Wade tries to convince them to join him. Instead, the group starts shooting. Deadpool uses Nicepool's body as a shield. After managing to hide behind a vehicle, he realizes that his doppelganger cannot regenerate. He says he will take him to the hospital. However, to get to the corner, the mercenary needs to cross the army of clones and once again uses Nicepool's body as a shield. As a result, his hairy version has his brains blown out. Wade steals the gold-plated pistols that belong to the Nicepool and unites with Wolverine to take down an enemy army. Together, they start a war against dozens of mercenaries and advance on the battlefield. As they defeat the enemies, they spot some hiding inside a bus. Without hesitation, the duo enters the vehicle and successfully eliminates all of them. The bad news is that after the battle, the Deadpools get up ready for another round since, unlike the Nicepool, all of them can regenerate. When a new war is about to begin, Peter arrives on the battlefield and manages to establish peace, since he is loved by all the Deadpools. While the gang celebrates Peter's arrival, Wade and Logan run to the subway and discover that Cassandra has already started using the machine. According to Paradox, the only way to stop the villain from destroying all alternative realities is by causing a short circuit in the device. The machine is powered by sources of matter and antimatter. To destroy the machine, it will be necessary to create a connection between the sources, but the person serving as the bridge will be completely incinerated. Despite knowing the great risk, Deadpool and Wolverine decide to continue the mission. Logan announces that he will go on alone from this point forward. But Wade believes Logan deserves a fresh start. Wade then attacks Logan with a fire extinguisher to push him out of the chamber. After locking the doors, Deadpool destroys one of the power sources and tries to pull the power cables to connect them to the other side. But he cannot stretch far enough to reach the antimatter source. Just when it seems like all hope is lost, Wolverine manages to break down the door and grabs Wade's hand. At that moment, the two of them use their bodies as a bridge for energy transfer between the power sources, causing a massive short circuit in the time rip. Meanwhile, their bodies are burned from the inside out, but they manage to withstand it as they share the energy overload with the machine's explosion. In an instant, Cassandra's body is pulverized, and Earth 105 narrowly escapes imminent destruction. Just then, Commander B-15 arrives and questions Paradox about using the Time Ripper without permission. Paradox explains that Cassandra forced him to build the machine and invaded his mind to learn how to use it. When he realized that reality was in danger of being destroyed, he sought help from Deadpool and Wolverine to fix the problem. However, Paradox didn't anticipate that Deadpool and Wolverine would survive the explosion and return to disprove his story. They survived the ordeal through their teamwork, which contradicted Paradox's account of events. After discovering the truth, B-15 instructs her guards to take Paradox to the TVA headquarters where he will face judgment. Once the Time Ripper is destroyed, the commander verifies that the universe is healing and commends Wade and Logan for their outstanding work. Despite Wolverine not belonging to that timeline, B-15 allows him to remain there to rebuild his life. After Deadpool sees the commander in a generous mood, he asks for help to rescue his friends who are trapped in the void. None of this would have been possible without them. After saving the world, Deadpool and Wolverine decided to go out for a meal. Wade reunited with Dogpool since Nicepool is no longer alive. Wade decides to adopt him and takes him home with Logan. When they enter the apartment, Al greets them and is happy to have two new housemates. A few days later, Wade meets with all his new and old friends and tries to make amends with Vanessa.